one of those 0.01 percenters that you hear about, think about, and I am by any reasonable definition a plutocrat. And tonight, what I would like to do is speak directly to other plutocrats, to my people, because it feels like it's time for us all to have a chat. Like most plutocrats, I too am a proud and unapologetic capitalist. I have founded, co-founded, or funded over 30 companies across a range of industries. I was the first non-family investor in Amazon.com. I co-founded a company called Quantive that we sold to Microsoft for $6.4 billion. My friends and I, we own a bank. I tell you this, unbelievable, right? I tell you this to show that my life is like most plutocrats. I have a broad perspective on capitalism and business, and I've been rewarded obscenely for that with a life that most of y'all can't even imagine. Multiple homes, a yacht, a plane, etc., etc. But let's be honest, I am not the smartest person you've ever met. I am certainly not the hardest working. I was a mediocre student. I'm not technical at all. I can't write a word of code. Truly, my success is the consequence of spectacular luck, of birth, of circumstance, and of timing. But I am actually pretty good at a couple of things. One, I have an unusually high tolerance for risk. And the other is, I have a good sense, good intuition about what will happen in the future. And I think that that intuition about the future is the essence of good entrepreneurship. So what do I see in our future today, you ask? I see pitchforks, as in angry mobs with pitchforks. Because people like us plutocrats, because wow, people like us plutocrats, are living beyond the dreams of avarice. The other 99% of our fellow citizens are falling farther and farther behind. In 1980, the top 1% of Americans shared about 8% of national wealth, while the bottom 50% of Americans shared 18%. 30 years later, today, the top 1% shares over 20% of national wealth, while the bottom 50% of Americans share 12 or 13. If the trend continues, the top 1% will share over 30% of national wealth in another 30 years, while the bottom 50% of Americans will share just 6. See, the problem isn't that we have some inequality. Some inequality is necessary for a high-functioning capitalist democracy. The problem is that inequality is at historic highs today, and it's getting worse every day. And if wealth, power, and income continue to concentrate at the very tippy top, our society will change from a capitalist democracy to a neo-feudalist rentier society like 18th century France. That was, France before the revolution and the mobs with the pitchforks. So I have a message for my fellow plutocrats and zillionaires, and for anyone who lives in a gated bubble world. Wake up. Wake up. It cannot last. Because if we do not do something to fix the glaring economic inequities in our society, the pitchforks will come for us. For no free and open society long sustained this kind of rising economic inequality. It has never happened. There are no examples. You show me a highly unequal society, and I will show you a police state or an uprising. The pitchforks will come for us if we do not address this. It's not a matter of if, it's when. And it will be terrible when they come for everyone, but particularly for people like us plutocrats. I know I'm going to sound like some liberal do-gooder. I'm not. I'm not making a moral argument that economic inequality is wrong. What I'm arguing is that rising economic inequality is stupid and ultimately self-defeating. Rising inequality doesn't just increase our risks from pitchforks, but it's also terrible for business too. So the model for us rich guys should be Henry Ford. When Ford famously introduced the $5 a day, which was twice the prevailing wage at the time, he didn't just increase the productivity of his factories. He converted exploited auto workers who were poor into a thriving middle class who could now afford to buy the products that they made. Ford intuited what we now know is true, that economy is best understood as an ecosystem and characterized by the same kinds of feedback loops you find in a natural ecosystem. The feedback loop between customers and businesses. Raising wages increases demand, which increases hiring, which in turn increases wages and demand and profits. And that virtuous cycle of increasing prosperity is precisely what is missing from today's economic recovery. And this is why we need to put behind us the trickle-down policies that so dominate both political parties and embrace something I call middle-out economics. Middle-out economics rejects the neoclassical economic idea that economies are efficient, linear, mechanistic, that they tend towards equilibrium and fairness. And instead embraces the 21st century idea that economies are complex, adaptive, ecosystemic, that they tend away from equilibrium and toward inequality, that they're not efficient at all, but are effective if well managed. This 21st century perspective allows you to clearly see that capitalism does not work by effectively allocating existing resources. It works by effectively creating new solutions to human problems. The genius of capitalism is that it is an evolutionary solution-finding system. It rewards people for solving other people's problems. The difference between a poor society and a rich society, obviously, is the degree to which that society has generated solutions in the form of products for its citizens. The sum of the solutions that we have in our society really is our prosperity, and this explains why companies like Google and Amazon and Microsoft and Apple and the entrepreneurs who created those companies have contributed so much to our nation's prosperity. This 21st century perspective also makes clear that what we think of as economic growth is best understood as the rate at which we solve problems. But that rate is totally dependent upon how many problem solvers, diverse, able problem solvers we have, and thus how many of our fellow citizens actively participate, both as entrepreneurs who can offer solutions and as customers who consume them. But this maximizing participation thing doesn't happen by accident. It doesn't happen by itself. It requires effort and investment, which is why all highly prosperous capitalist democracies are characterized by massive investments in the middle class and the infrastructure that they depend on. We plutocrats need to get this trickle-down economics thing behind us. This idea that the better we do, the better everyone else will do. It's not true. How could it be? I earn 1,000 times the median wage, but I do not buy 1,000 times as much stuff, do I? I actually bought 2 pairs of these pants, what my partner Mike calls my manager pants. I could have bought 2,000 pairs, but what would I do with them? How many haircuts can I get? How often can I go out to dinner? No matter how wealthy a few plutocrats get, we can never drive a great national economy. Only a thriving middle class can do that. Nothing to be done, my plutocrat friends might say. Henry Ford was in a different time. Maybe we can do something. Maybe we can do something. June 19th, 2013, Bloomberg published an article I wrote called "The Capitalist Case for a $15 Minimum Wage." The good people at Forbes magazine, among my biggest admirers, called it Nick Hanauer's near insane proposal. And yet, just 350 days after that article was published, Seattle's Mayor Ed Murray signed a law and ordinance raising the minimum wage in Seattle to $15 an hour, more than double what the prevailing federal $7.25 rate is. How did this happen? Reasonable people might ask. It happened because a group of us reminded the middle class that they are the source of growth and prosperity in capitalist economies. We reminded them that when workers have more money, businesses have more customers and need more employees. We reminded them that when businesses pay workers a living wage, taxpayers are relieved of the burden of funding the poverty programs like food stamps and medical assistance and rent assistance that those workers need. We reminded them that low-wage workers make terrible taxpayers, and that when you raise the minimum wage for all businesses benefit, yet all can compete. Now, the orthodox reaction, of course, is raising the minimum wage costs jobs, right? Your politicians always echoing that trickle-down idea by saying things like, well, if you raise the price of employment, guess what happens? You get less of it. Are you sure? Because there's some contravening evidence. Since 1980, the wages of CEOs in our country have gone from about 30 times the median wage to 500 times. That's raising the price of employment. And yet, to my knowledge, I've never seen a company outsource its CEO's job, automate their job, export the job to China. In fact, we appear to be employing more CEOs and senior managers than ever before. So too for technology workers and financial services workers who earn multiples of the median wage, and yet we employ more and more of them. So clearly, you can raise the price of employment and get more of them. I know that most people think that $15 minimum wage is this insane, risky economic experiment. We disagree. We believe that the $15 minimum wage in Seattle is actually the continuation of a logical economic policy that is allowing our city to kick your city's ass. Because you see, Washington State already has the highest minimum wage of any state in the nation. We pay all workers $9.32, which is almost 30% more than the federal minimum of $7.25, but crucially, 427% more than the federal tipped minimum of $2.13. If trickle-down thinkers were right, then Washington State should have massive unemployment. Seattle should be sliding into the ocean. And yet, Seattle is the fastest growing big city in the country. Washington State is generating small business jobs at a higher rate than any other major state in the nation. The restaurant business in Seattle, booming. Why? Because the fundamental law of capitalism is when workers have more money, businesses have more customers, and need more workers. When restaurants pay restaurant workers enough so that even they can afford to eat in restaurants, that's not bad for the restaurant business. That's good for it, despite what some restaurateurs may tell you. Is it more complicated than I'm making out? Of course it is. There are a lot of dynamics at play. But can we please stop insisting that if low-wage workers earn a little bit more, unemployment will skyrocket and the economy will collapse? There is no evidence for it. The most insidious thing about trickle-down economics is not the claim that if the rich get richer, everyone is better off. It is the claim made by those who oppose any increase in the minimum wage that if the poor get richer, that will be bad for the economy. This is nonsense. So can we please dispense with this rhetoric that says that rich guys like me and my plutocrats friends made our country. We plutocrats know, even if we don't like to admit it in public, that if we've been born somewhere else, not here in the United States, we might very well be just some dude standing barefoot by the side of the dirt road selling fruit. It's not that they don't have good entrepreneurs in other places, even very, very poor places. It's just that that's all that those entrepreneurs, customers, can afford. So here's an idea, a new kind of economics, a new kind of politics, that I call new capitalism. Let's acknowledge that capitalism beats the alternatives, but also that the more people we include, both as entrepreneurs and as customers, the better it works. Let's by all means shrink the size of government, but not by slashing the poverty programs, but by ensuring that workers are paid enough so that they actually don't need those programs. Let's invest enough in the middle class to make our economy fairer and more inclusive, and by fairer, more truly competitive. And by more truly competitive, more able to generate the solutions to human problems that are the true drivers of growth and prosperity. Capitalism is the greatest social technology ever invented for creating prosperity in human societies if it is well managed. But capitalism, because of the fundamental multiplicative dynamics of complex systems, tends towards inexorable inequality, concentration, and collapse. The work of democracies is to maximize the inclusion of the many in order to create prosperity, not to enable the few to accumulate money. Government does create prosperity and growth by creating conditions that allow both entrepreneurs and their customers to thrive. Balancing the power of capitalists like me and workers isn't bad for capitalism, it's essential to it. Programs like a reasonable minimum wage, affordable health care, paid sick leave, and the progressive taxation necessary to pay for the important infrastructure necessary to the middle class, like education, R&D. These are indispensable tools true capitalists should embrace to drive growth, because no one benefits from it like us. Many economists would have you believe that their field is an objective science. I disagree. And I think that it is equally a tool that humans use to enforce and encode our social and moral preferences and prejudices about status and power. Which is why plutocrats like me have always needed to find persuasive stories to tell everyone else about why our relative positions are morally righteous and good for everyone. Like, we are indispensable, the job creators, and you are not. Like, tax cuts for us create growth, but investments in you will balloon our debt and bankrupt our great country. That we matter, that you don't. For thousands of years, these stories were called divine right. Today, we have trickle-down economics. How obviously, transparently self-serving all of this is. We plutocrats need to see that the United States of America made us, not the other way around. That a thriving middle class is the source of prosperity in capitalist economies, not a consequence of it. And we should never forget that even the best of us, in the worst of circumstances, are barefoot by the side of a dirt road selling fruit. Fellow plutocrats, I think it may be time for us to recommit to our country, to commit to a new kind of capitalism which is both more inclusive and more effective. A capitalism that will ensure that America's economy remains the most dynamic and prosperous in the world. Let's secure the future for ourselves, our children, and their children. Or alternatively, we can do nothing. And in our gated communities and private schools, enjoy our planes and yachts. They're fun. and wait for the pitch points. Thank you.
His English must be better than me. So, can you understand what is it he talking about? Can you explain to me? Because I'm man in black, so I can. So I can only communicate with alien. I don't really understand him. Yeah.
What he talks about is how the big company that gain profit from the selling their products to the people should give back to their employee in order to drive the economy. So
That is his suggestion, right? He suggests that they should raise up that minimum wage, right? But is this the best way to rule our world? We always expecting that rich people to give up their assets or their money for people. We always expecting that. That we think because I'm still a little bit nervous, so I forget so many jobs that I should do. That Men in Black. Do you know that Men in Black has a tool about eraser, memory eraser, right? I should do that before I talk to you because you remember too much about words. I try to do that again. That would actually that money is not a very good method for us to allocate our benefit, and it is very complicated. I have to use more time to explain that. Then back to simple case. Actually, that they're talking about capitalism, and keep talking about capitalism or all economic theories that all come from that book I just mentioned about that written by Adam Smith, right? But he explained to us that how could we improve our living standard? Sometimes we could call that the book. The title of that book is "Wealth of the Nations," right? Wealth of the Nations. But he starting to talk that maybe that just that I just said that I need imitate that his story. He said if his example is that if anyone need one pins, maybe he has to use one day, but cannot get one, right? But if some factory, like I just said that 20 monkeys, 20 people, then they can make more than 40,000 a day, right? How should we distribute those kind of productivity story that, as he just said, he believed that benefits should distribute to everyone. But now we really doing is that we're using market transaction mechanism, right? So he's talking about that capital. The result of capitalism is that, for example, let's say the salary of CEO rising from 5 times, 50 times, and typical worker to maybe 500 times wages than ordinary people, right? That mechanism is just like that we said. When productivity improved 2,000 times, what price will we set? If we set, for example, anyone who just 100 is too complicated. For example, anyone using 1 day to get one product for himself, then we will set very much near that one day for the price to everyone. So the benefit will centralize, will accumulate to 20%, 20 monkeys, right? If those 20 monkeys just work for one entrepreneur, then the boss will just give those 20 monkeys more than 1 day, right? And at least, the boss, the owner of that factory will get maybe 40,000 days. Will get 40,000 days, right? And everyone will only save a little bit out of 1 day, right? And what will happen? What will happen? As he just said that he will not buy 2,000 ideas, right? He don't have to. You don't have to cut his hair 2,000 times a day, right? Then what will happen in the world? Yep. The improving of the world will stop, right? Another serious problem is that how to work if if just that like I just said, suppose that 1 day a person has all the capital, means one person of all equipment, automatic equipment, and that can produce any product or service to all mankind. How does it work? How should it work? Will you be afraid of that situation? Come to. Will you? What are you afraid of?
Maybe suddenly he stopped doing it. So I don't have
You really think you can survive?
I'm not sure because I use them.
Oh, okay. So I didn't use that eraser for you. And, do you have another concern about that kind of situation?
We already have this kind of situation right now.
Yeah.
As you see in 7-Eleven,
Mm-hmm.
every goods that we consume every day, or meat, chickens.
Yeah.
Okay, if you look back in the past, we have kind of communities goods that we provide for ourselves.
Mhm.
Right now, kind of like a big industrial come to China,
Yeah.
and it's like only the one company that makes all of that goods.
Yeah.
And that means that we have to consume that from the company that's made up. And the thing is, it doesn't make opportunity for the small people, small business to make this. It means that right now we have a small business too, but how to fight with that.
How to fight with that?
It means that if those small business are collapsed, and then now all of that kind of business in our country are going to depend on that.
People already fight with that. Did you know that recent movement about yellow vest, right? Yellow vest movement in France.
Yellow waste food.
Yeah,
Yes.
you know that.
And
And Occupy Wall Street. I'm there. I was there.
yeah, I was there too.
Really?
I visited friends last week,
Uh-huh.
and it's last month, and it was said about the politics of the oil fuel things that are gonna go up the tax of that price,
Mhm.
and it is effect with the poor people because the poor people are like a lot of them.
Mhm.
And of course, they are stakeholders, and the fuel affect them a lot because they don't have money to earn that for the farm tractors, oil, because they are in the country, they have to spend a lot of oil with it. It means like it's benefit for the rich people. Okay, it's not effect to me because it's just a little bit high fuel, but in terms of lower
Yeah.
class people, it's mean a lot.
That is the cost of yellow vest. Yeah.
Because I think that expensive, this word, expensive is different. For me, I have 100. Okay, this one is 5 baht, it's not expensive. But the poor people, they have 5 baht, this one is.
Yeah, I just talking about that. We was thinking about it. Maybe, yeah, I have the chance to come back to this class, right? Okay, maybe we have chance to more detail or more complete about many idea. But now back to our question. He is afraid of that. If someone own all the capital, then he will be afraid of that. He can someday he cannot get right. But actually, I just as I studied from today's discussion, that I said we should be copy monkey, not just copy cat, right? So actually, you should not be so afraid of that. If we copy those 20 monkeys and we leave that richest people alone, so we can create new specialized equipment for us, then we can provide to us. right? But from the other side, that richest people should be afraid of. If they can, if he can produce any product and service by themselves, right? By himself, right? And no one has money to buy his product, right? Right. So actually, we should figure out new system for our work. Let's get back to his idea. Let's get back to his idea. Is it possible? For example, we have that kind of improving productivity, right? And everyone can set their cost or their time. Maybe I cannot speak in English. We use one day before, right? Now we only have to use one day. Can get the same product, right? So everyone can save right? Can save that. Right? Then everyone can use those savings to create other products or service to improve our living standard, right? But how could is it possible to create that kind of mechanism to do our work? Just as I asked him, what price should we set for each one, for everyone, right? What price should we set? How can we redesign that mechanism for the world? To run like this, not like that one before. Do you have any idea? What can we do? Do you believe that kind of mechanism or system could be happening? Do you believe that? But we all of us know, if we keep it the same mechanism now we use, will become that kind of situation, right? We believe that, right? That is the social enterprise issues I'm talking about. Social enterprise is not just a new species of firm or organization. Social enterprise is not talking about charity. Social enterprise is a new institution that we should design for our future. Otherwise, we will get into that kind of problem. Okay? We still have so I will give you another possibility.
I use that. I'm red.
Hi, welcome to another Cold Future video. Shortly after the 2008 global financial crash, a mysterious white paper emerged from an unknown entity, a person or group calling themselves Satoshi Nakamoto. In this mysterious white paper, a new peer-to-peer financial system was discussed. It was to use a digital cryptocurrency called Bitcoin. It was an omen to people being sick of centralized power meddling with economic systems. Many perceive this new system as a better way of doing things. The technology invented to power this new system was called blockchain, and Nakamoto's paper was its grand unveiling. In this video, we'll talk about some exciting implications of this technology and the impact it could have on all of our lives. So what is blockchain? It's the underlying technology behind cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and Ethereum, but its uses go far beyond that. It all sounds complicated, but let me try and break it down into one sentence, an important concept that you need to remember. Simply put, blockchain is a continuously updated record of who holds what. These records are split into linked blocks and then secured using cryptography. The cryptography part just means that you can be sure about the records. This is dubbed as automated trust, or trust that's inherently built into the system. The list of records, known as a distributed ledger, is decentralized and available to everyone to see and verify. In addition, the blockchain is tamper-evident and unhackable due to its distributed nature. Everyone knows when a block is being messed with because it is rejected by the rest of the system. If you want to know more details, I've already done a video about the basics of how blockchain works in regards to cryptocurrencies. I'll leave that video and other information sources in the description below. Blockchain has a social perception strongly related to Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies, and most people view the blockchain as something for intellectual tech-savvy criminals or people that are anti-government. But the emerging truth is that the blockchain has applications far beyond cryptos and as a whole will be nothing short of revolutionary. I've invited Dr. Adrian McCullough, a blockchain lawyer who's at the cutting edge of what's going on in the industry, to speak to us today.
Hello. I'm a lawyer with 30 years experience. I'm the only lawyer with a PhD in IT security. My thesis involved technical analysis of digital signatures and hash algorithms, which happens to be the underlying technology for blockchain. So blockchain is just a special type of repository that is in itself tamper evident.
Blockchain technology has been called the next stage of the internet by many.
But I believe that this is now the next generation of the internet, and that it holds vast promise for every business, every society, and for all of you individually.
Let me break it down. Our current internet is an internet of information. It's based on the concept of copying and distributing information, be it video, email, or data. All of these are copies. For example, if you want to watch a video on YouTube or receive an email, you're looking at a digital copy of the original. But what if we take this further to the next stage? What about assets that provide real value, like contracts such as a house or car ownership, a stock, a bond, money, votes, or digital identities? The problem is, you don't want to have these things as copies. For example, you don't want to send someone $5,000, yet still have the original $5,000 under your name. This was called the double spending problem by cryptographers. Despite the name, this basically means the problem of having two digital copies of something that should only have one unique identity. The cryptography element of the blockchain enabled it to be the first technology of its kind to solve the double spending problem. Now, for the first time, we can build a new stage of the internet based on real value. And this is partly why it's such a big deal. So where can the blockchain be applied? In my talk with Dr. Adrian, he discusses the FITS model of blockchain application. FITS is an acronym. Using this model, the best place to use blockchain are places with high possibility of fraud, an intermediary or middleman, environments with high throughput, and stable data. Dr. Adrian Adrian explain further.
You should try to run against your environment what's called the FITS model, F-I-T-S. The FITS model stands for, F stands for fraud. If you are in an environment where there is a history, propensity, likelihood of fraud involved in various transactions, then the blockchain can assist in reducing the likelihood of fraud actually occurring.
Adrian goes on to say that this is why blockchain is being used for international finance transactions.
The next area on the FITS is the I. If you have an environment where there are intermediaries involved, then you may be able to disintermediate those parties if they really don't provide value.
He goes on to say that we can get average transaction settlement times from 2 days down to 15 minutes by taking away middlemen. Throughput, or number of transactions per second, is another consideration. It turns out that Bitcoin can only do 10 transactions per second, while MasterCard and Visa can do about 80,000. But researchers are currently looking into increasing the throughput.
You then look at things which what Vincent Romoli from the University of New South Wales has developed. He's been able to increase the throughput to 400,000 transactions a second through what's called decentralized computing, using 100 laptops, PCs to do the processing power.
And next is the stability of data. For a blockchain application, you don't want tiled data. You want things that are going to stay the same for at least a while, things such as land ownership titles and personal information. So that's the theory about what systems you should look for in regards to using blockchain applications. But where is the blockchain actually being used today? Here's a quick fire round of applications underway. Blockchain land registries are being looked at in Honduras and Sweden. Diamonds are looking to be tracked by the blockchain to stop things like blood diamonds. The Nasdaq Stock Exchange will soon begin a blockchain system to record the trading in privately held companies. The Bank of England has stated that the blockchain is a significant innovation that could have far-reaching implications in the financial industry. Not only this, but 6 banks, including Barclays, Credit Suisse, and HSBC, are all planning on making a single digital cryptocurrency to clear and settle transactions using the blockchain. Microsoft is even getting in on the action by building a framework using the Ethereum blockchain. On the social media front, there's Steemit, a Reddit competitor, and its video companion, DTube, a YouTube competitor. Both are blockchain-based platforms where you can get paid in cryptocurrency for creating content. This is showing a new direction in where social media could go. As a matter of fact, I've actually just signed up for Steemit myself. Okay, so this is all good, but let's turn things up a notch. Blockchain goes even further when you talk about something called a decentralized autonomous organization, a DAO, or DAO for short. Because of blockchain technology, we now have the capability to create huge company organizations that are distributed and automated for the first time in history. This has never been done before, could provide near limitless potential. Before the blockchain, we were already halfway there. We have organizations like YouTube that are a mix of the old style central management with a decentralized user base creating content. A DAO would have computer code that runs the rules and decisions instead of a central management team at the top. The people in the decentralized network would decide on the rules, form a consensus, and create something called a smart contract. Basically a set of computer-coded rules that a computer would execute later when needed. In other words, a DAO is like a democratic company that's automatically run.
So a DAO is meant to be a decentralized, so it's on the blockchain, there's no central management involved, autonomous in that the code will run the transaction, and it's meant to be some form of organization. The difficulty from a legal perspective is that no one at this point in time has been able to classify exactly what a DAO is. It may be that in a few years' time, DAOs will become so popular that legislators will need to create special legislation that will recognize what a DAO is, but at this point in time, no one knows.
Let's take a look at a basic hypothetical example of how this might work, but just with one smart contract. So say in the future, when the blockchain is readily established, you want to buy a used Tesla Model 3. Traditionally, you'd go to a dealer or an individual. You'd make sure that the details and the history of the car are correct. You'd hassle for a price with the seller, takes the money out from the bank, transfer the money, sign a lot of paperwork, wait for the money to clear, and then you can finally have the car. This will take around a few days to do. Now, with the blockchain, using a smart contract, you can have this order all carried out in real time. The car will be uploaded to the blockchain so that you would already know that the details are correct because trust is built into the system. You can buy this car with a cryptocurrency that's attached to your bank account, and all of the ownership and other details about the car is executed in a smart contract, so everything would happen in a matter of minutes instead of days. Your ownership of the car is now attached to your digital identity on the blockchain. The global records in the blockchain system is now updated so that everybody in the system now knows that this car was sold to you. You can take all of this a step further by linking up different smart contracts into an organization similar to Airbnb or Uber, so the whole process is automatic with rating systems of service and customer satisfaction, etc. Although that setup is a sharing economy model, according to Dr. Adrian, a group of smart contracts can easily be arranged in this way. So I hope that you're beginning to see the importance and potential of such technology. But it's not all roses. Right now, there are still some downsides. Malicious smart contracts, for example, these can theoretically be designed to clog up the entire system. In addition, if there are actual coding errors within a decentralized autonomous organization itself, this could create massive problems. Another thing is that the blockchain is also permanent. Every record of a transaction is stored there for all time, and this doesn't sit well for those concerned with privacy and the right to be forgotten. Dr. Adrian did state that there are going to be some entities called oracles, and these guys have special clearance to make edits on the blockchain. But overall, this is still an issue that needs further looking into.
As I tell people, when we talk about blockchain and we talk about DAOs and ICOs and things of that nature, we are at this stage in the blockchain ecosystem probably the equivalent of 1993, when the internet was opened up by President Clinton and the National Science Foundation. Prior to 1992, the internet was only open to research organizations, government agencies, defense contracting organizations. Who would have thought in 1992 that we would have companies like Google, Amazon? All of those companies have taken advantage and looked at the internet and said, how can I use this piece of technology? I have no idea what some really smart master's PhD student is going to do, and say, we could use the blockchain or smart contract or a DAO to do this. May come from the University of Queensland, Curtin University of WA, Stanford, who knows what someone is going to think about in the future and say, well, we can use this technology to do this. I don't believe it's going to be me. I'd love it to be me. But there'll be some smart people out there who will look at this technology and say, let's do this. And the rest of the world say, wow, that's really something I want to get on board and I want to utilize that service.
So while everyone's focused on the buzz of artificial intelligence, I really think that the blockchain are a course that's going under the radar, mainly because it's not as romanticized and the concept is a little bit harder to grasp. Regardless, blockchain is the next step of the internet, a complete overhaul of how things in our world are going to be recorded, organized, and run. In the end, I personally think it's going to be a combination of artificial intelligence and the blockchain that will be our future. So what do you guys think? Are you looking forward to things changing this way, or are you hesitant? Let me know your thoughts below. Also, if you know someone that's going to be interested in this topic, feel free to pass this video along to them. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for watching. If you've just stumbled across this channel, feel free to subscribe. This has been Dagogo, you've been watching Cold Fusion, and I'll see you again soon for the next video. Cheers guys, have a good one.
I know nowadays this connect to internet, maybe you can get some kind of English or Thai. It will be easier for you to understand what about that blockchain. But I think we have to come to a conclusion about that. We don't have enough time to talking about the complication of money, but we should know that because of money, so we create some illusion of the benefit come from. So and everybody are now we working for profit, working for money, but not working for better life for ourselves, right? As we're talking about that, those smart monkey, they just find that if 40,000 monkeys cooperate together and give the repeat opportunity for that for those 20 monkeys, so they can use those kind of repetition to create provision and all they can reduce the cost to switch between works, or even we can create some specialized equipment for us. Now we have any kind of smart machine, smart equipment, and as you know, someday, for example, Amazon already have store on medical medically. They don't have to hire any employee, right? that kind of store also in Alibaba, as I know, right? So it is true that maybe someday will come that those kind of specialized equipment could produce any product, any service that all mankind needs, right? But problem is how should we rule the world? How could we coordinate all mankind to cooperate to create such a beautiful world, right? Now, blockchain give us some space to imagine that. Oh, I don't have internet. It's okay. You can find This is an article you can find on the internet, right? They are talking about that blockchain to give rise to Uber and Airbnb computers. Do you know sharing economy? Do you know that? Do you know Airbnb?
Yes.
Uber?
Yes.
Do you believe that really a sharing economy? Do you believe that? Huh?
Is it not a real sharing economy?
Not really sharing.
Really?
Not really. Just like he just said that 7-Eleven really give some really share some value to us. But at the end, I have a student, a graduate student. His thesis is studying and focusing on the unjust channel. Unjust. Because do you know that marketing channel now control all the power about the distribution flow, right? Because as he just said, now you can only buy products from 7-Eleven, right? So 7-Eleven has the market power to raise price anytime. On the other side, 7-Eleven may be maybe one of the few buyer from any producer, right? Right? This kind of so 7-Eleven will ask their provider to cost down or to price down for their purchasing, right? This kind of situation already exists in America because of that Walmart caused that very serious problem for America. because of Walmart, when Walmart come to anywhere, other channel should be closed. And Walmart assign his provider to Asia. So in America, anyone has only chance to participate to economic by work for Walmart. Other than that, they don't have any other opportunity, right? Those kind of situations also happen in sharing economy now. For example, Uber or Airbnb, customer give their private information to Uber, the company, and Uber get any information from provider, right? So he set up any price he like, right? So this kind of business model still is that centralized system. Very much like 7-Eleven or Walmart, right? People in about before 2000, they expect that internet will decentralization opportunity, but really we create new giants such as Google, such as Amazon or other companies. Now we have new opportunity, new technology that blockchain. It also need to take time to understand how blockchain works. But a simple idea is that blockchain can create trust between people, decentralized, we don't need any other center to help us. For example, like Airbnb, to provide a platform for user and for provider, right? After blockchain, people can cooperate through what? First, you can use smart contract like that. You can join that blockchain, right? So you using smart contract to open your message. For example, you have a house, a room available for others, and from the other side, if you need travel to somewhere, you need a room for yourself, right? So you open your information to blockchain, but you keep your privacy, keep your own privacy by yourself. And in that time, we won't have to rely on Airbnb to help us to match that kind of demand and supply. We can just purchase some kind of apps, application program. That kind of application program is searching on the internet through a blockchain to find out who have available rooms and who need a room somewhere sometime, right? So that program just match that kind of supply and needs, and provider or user just pay for that service, and they don't have to give their privacy to that application program, right? They don't have to do that. If the application program is not provide service enough for us, then we will be easier to choose another one. Any application program could provide better service than we purchased it, right? Okay, so that will become easier to that situation or that opinion he just talking about. Actually, we improve our living quality is to, such as 40,000 monkeys cooperate together to give the opportunity for 20 monkeys has the repetition opportunity to getting more and more proficient or they can create some kind of specialized equipment to improve their productivity, right? So anyone who can propose a new cooperation idea to create that kind of repeat opportunity that will improve those who cooperate together, the living standard for them, right? So that kind of cooperative idea or cooperative model is the core of improve our living standard, not money, not profit. Okay? So, this is just a starting point that we thinking about that social enterprise. And that is the reason, the real reason, not just for charity, right? That is the real reason that your class design or that you have the opportunity to join the community, to rethink about how to design for society. Right? Your real purpose is, or your motivation is design product or any other service is just very much like that cooperative idea for people to create repeat opportunity to improve productivity and to reduce our cost of living and give a chance to improve our living standard. I think this is the main idea about social enterprise. That's my thought. Thank you very much.
Do you guys have any questions? Or any suggestion or expression? What do you feel about this concept? How do you feel about it?
Maybe next time when I come back to class after that we went to community and we will have real material to talk about. I'm expecting you tell me as an industrial designer, what do you think the future work should become? I think as we talking about that, we maybe one common expectation about future world. But this class is talking about design for society, right? That is, how would you design it? So next time I can come back to class. I expect you to tell me